How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today, this video is probably not even going to be that focused on you guys who already play RuneScape, because what I'm going to be talking about is, do I think that you should play RuneScape 3 in 2021? So we're going to have a discussion about the reasons that I think you should, and then maybe even if there is any, some reasons that I think you maybe shouldn't. So what we're going to do is start off by talking about exactly what RuneScape 3 offers, go over the sort of things that new players would enjoy, and then also talk about the stuff that may put off new players. But we're going to get into it, we're going to talk about it pretty in depth, I would say, knowing myself, and hopefully you guys come away from this video even knowing, yes, I want to try this game out, I really want to, or no, maybe this game isn't for me. But if you enjoy the video, do leave a like on it. Guys, people who are watching that already play RuneScape 3, definitely leave a like on this video, as if we can reach more people as well, then happy days. We'd love to get more people playing our game. Also, do leave any comments down below if you have any questions at all, guys. People who are considering playing, if you have any questions whatsoever, then leave some questions down below in the comments. I answer almost every single comment if I can, and I would be happy to do that in this video as well. But other than the usual, do subscribe if you are new to the channel. That's enough for the intro. Let's find out whether you should play RuneScape 3 now that we are a few months into 2021. Alright, so we're going to start off by talking about, you guys are probably thinking, wait, is RuneScape 3 still alive? RuneScape 3. We're not talking about old school RuneScape here. We're talking about RuneScape 3. Isn't that a dead game? Hell no. RuneScape 3 is doing absolutely great at the moment. In fact, in terms of current online players, in January, this actually jumped from around about 20,000 players on average, all the way up to just less than 40,000 online players altogether, just from between January and April. It peaked at April, and then now we're sitting around about 35 to 40,000 players on average online at one point. Keeping in mind that these are online players, and of course there's going to be a hell of a lot more players that aren't logged in all at the same time due to time zones, this game is doing absolutely great. This is not a dead game. It is absolutely not dying, considering the player counts are actually growing, especially this year. So if you were actually wondering if RuneScape 3 is dead or whether old school RuneScape had killed it off, no, RuneScape 3 is definitely still around and the player count is doing absolutely great. In fact, a lot of people have been trying out RuneScape 3 from old school RuneScape and staying around because they like the way the game is. So at this moment in time, RuneScape 3 is doing absolutely great player-wise. The numbers only seem to be growing, and I can absolutely see this game getting more and more popular in the years to come. Leading straight off of player count into this, I actually wanted to mention as well that this game is available on PC and it's also available on mobile. On Android at the moment, you can absolutely go and download the game and try it out, but it is not fully released yet on either platforms at the moment. On Android, it is in beta, and on iOS, it's still in early access. But this is definitely coming at some point this year, and when that launches, the player count, I expect, will have another peak. However, I do recommend that if you are going to try out RuneScape 3, that you do try it out on PC if you have access to one. If you don't, then of course you can try it out on Android at the moment and iOS when it releases, but I highly suggest playing on PC if you can, as it's designed better for that and you'll get a better experience out of it. One last thing before I start talking about the actual game experience itself, I think it's very important for me to explain the combat in RuneScape 3 is not like most MMOs. You will not be picking out a specific class to play. You will not be picking, say, a mage, or you will not be picking like a ranger, or you won't be picking like a warrior. It will literally just be one character can play all styles, and you can change mid-combat if you wanted to. A lot of bosses, you will not need to do this. However, sometimes you will want to be able to help yourself out. It's absolutely not required all the time, and it's something that shouldn't scare you away, but it should actually be something you look forward to be able to do. Being able to switch up from using ranged, magic, and melee whenever you want to do is honestly probably one of the most freedom feelings I've had in an MMO, and it's something that I miss whenever I play other MMOs, because being locked to one sort of weapon or combat style is definitely something that, after playing RuneScape, kind of feels a little bit, you know, locked up in my character. If my character wants to be able to do something else, I should be able to do it, and honestly, in this game, you can literally switch whenever you want. Even if you just want to take a sword with you, you can just chuck it on mid-fight and you'll be absolutely able to use that. That being said, the combat can be fairly confusing to new players, but as a new player, you'll also be leveling up your account and unlocking abilities as you go, but I'll talk about that in a little bit later on. Let's talk about what the early, mid, and late game experience of this game is like, as I feel like that's probably going to be a very important bit for you deciding whether you want to actually try this game out or not. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be what you can expect to do as a brand new player in the early game. Once I've talked about this, I will lead on to talk about what you can do in the mid game and then what you can expect once you finally reach your end game. This will just give you a good idea of what sort of things you can expect to get from the game, and this will probably be a huge factor in you deciding whether you want to actually try this game and give it a shot, or whether you think maybe it's not for you. So in the early game, you can expect to have the tutorial given to you straight away at the beginning. I recommend that you play this, as it will teach you a lot about the game, and it's going to be very, very important for you to not sort of just think, right, what the hell do I do now? Because once you've done the tutorial and you've done a few starting tasks, the game literally lets go of your hand and says, go and have fun. So this game is something where you usually would set your own goals, you would do your own playstyle, and you would literally focus on doing whatever you want to do personally in the game itself. So it does let go of your hand fairly early, and it does have quite a big sort of learning curve to get into it. But early game, you can expect to do quite a lot of early questing, which are, let me tell you, the quests in RuneScape 3 are not like your normal MMO quests. It's not going to be telling you to go and kill 10 wolves, come back and hand in its fur. It's going to be sending you off on an adventure. You're going to be saving people, rescuing people, going on massive big trips around the whole of the map and just working through stuff. There are some early quests that will be fairly quick, like help someone bake a cake, but even during this, you'll have to go around and collect all the ingredients from a specific place on the map. Make sure you come back and give them all those ingredients. Nice fast ones for early players, but eventually these quests are going to go into a lot more depth, and trust me, you'll never be doing the same thing twice. Along with questing in your early game, you can expect to be traveling around the map and exploring a hell of a lot. There is such a huge amount of places to go in this game. The map is absolutely massive, so you will have plenty to explore and get sort of familiar with specific places on the map as well. You have an absolute ton of skills that you want to be leveling up as you go along the way, but don't stress out too much about these straight away, as questing will definitely level these up for you as well, and you'll sort of slowly figure out what each skill does as you start using them throughout the quests as well. But early game levels do seem to go fairly quickly, so that's quite nice to see your character progressing fairly fast, but not over the top fast where you feel like nothing is really rewarding. And as for combat, you will be getting into this fairly early on. However, you won't have all the abilities unlocked, as the combat system does get very, very in-depth later on. However, you'll be learning this as you progress through the game, so it will absolutely make a lot more sense this way than if you just sort of jumped into the end game and you'd be confused as hell. Once you get into the mid game, you can expect to start setting yourself plenty more goals. You'll be learning the game at this point, you'll be figuring out things that you want to be able to work towards the end game, and you'll be able to set those goals for you, and then you'll be able to achieve those in a hell of a lot of different ways. There is no set single path that you should take to be able to get towards endgame. RuneScape is a great game for that. Like I said, it lets go of your hand very, very quickly, and you kind of just have to figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it. But the grind will start to feel a little bit more, not absolutely ridiculous. It never actually does get ridiculous in this game, but you'll definitely start to notice the amount of experience that you need between certain levels jump up quite a bit. But again, you can still get all your daily bonus experience and all of the other stuff that you can get throughout the game, doing your daily challenges and all that sort of stuff to help level you up. And honestly, the grind isn't that bad. Everything's pretty much made to be fairly AFK, fairly easy to do, and in RuneScape 3, in all honesty, leveling doesn't take all that long compared to what it used to do. During this point of the game, there will still be a hell of a lot of quests for you to complete. Some of them you may not want to do them, and you don't have to do all the quests. They're not mandatory. There's some stuff that you'll definitely want to do to unlock for late game, but you don't have to do those right now. However, there will be some quests that will be definitely helpful for you to complete, and you'll probably feel a little bit obliged to do them. But again, all these quests are non-repetitive. They're incredibly well done, and if you enjoy doing quests in games, then this is the game. This is the game for you. Holy hell, do they put some effort into the quests in this game. So along with your quests and the goals that you've set and all the ways that you can go about completing those goals, you'll also start getting into combat a bit more now. You would have unlocked probably most of the abilities that you're going to be getting for whichever combat style you have leveled so far, and you'll now be starting to figure out kind of how the combat works a bit better, and you can even start getting into low level bossing, killing off some of the older bosses in the game to ease your way into the combat and figure out how bosses work. Go on a hunt for some of the rarer items from the older bosses in the game, or the lower level bosses. There's been some added recently that you could probably work on at this point, and you can sort of at this point get yourself into the PvM side of the game, and in all honesty, that's probably where the addiction will start for a lot of you. You will still have plenty of levels that you need to gain, and you'll also have loads of unlocks that you'll want to work towards, but once you reach the end game, the game experience changes quite a lot in my opinion, so let's talk about that now. Alright, so the late game. This is what everybody's working towards. This is the thing RuneScape 3 is probably known for, and the most addicting part of RuneScape, in my opinion at least. So once you've worked your way towards the end game, you'll be unlocking a lot more bosses. There is a lot of bosses in this game, and honestly, the excitement and the hype and the addiction comes from getting the rare drops from those bosses. So what you're going to find yourself doing is hunting down the bosses, taking them on, and defeating those in hopes for the big rare drop. Now, a lot of these things can drop items that are worth a hell of a lot of money in the game, and of course, killing those for those items is a big part of the reason why you would do this. However, not only that, the combat in RuneScape 3 is absolutely brilliant when it comes to PvM and bossing. Now, there's a lot of issues with the combat in the way of learning it as a new player and the intricacies of it and how it's kind of difficult. And comparing it to other MMOs and other games, I can honestly say that learning the combat in RuneScape 3, understanding it and knowing it inside out is definitely a lot more difficult than it is in other games as well, because there's a tick system to get used to it on. There is a skill called Invention which will add perks to your gear, your armor and your weapons. This can lead to things like switching weapons to use specific abilities. For example, there'll be one ability that you are going to use and normally it would only hit something 3 times, but if you have a weapon that has a perk called Coroming on it, it'll hit actually 7 times. So basically it's worth having certain items with different perks in it to do all the switches and stuff. You don't have to do this. If this scares you, if this stresses you out, you don't have to do this. It's not something you absolutely have to do, but you will notice that your life is a lot better and easier when you do. It definitely helps out when you're killing bosses, but again, it's something you don't need to absolutely do. But the combat, all in all, is really well thought out and really well done in my opinion, because it allows for a hell of a lot of great mechanics in bosses, and a lot of the bosses in this game as well, something that appeals to a lot of people, is they can be soloed. You can go into these bosses by yourself and get amazing rewards from them without having to wait around and group up with other players. There is group content in the game, however, most of the group content that you'll be able to do with other people is also something you could solo as well, if that's the way you wanted to go. So you won't have any of these sort of dungeon queues or raid timers or anything that you have to stand around and wait for a match finding thing to do. You'll be able to go whenever you want, however you want, and it's literally able for you to just jump in and get going. That being said, there is some sort of endgame traditional PvE aspects sort of missing. We do have raids, but they're nowhere near the same sort of raids you would expect from games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV. They are very different. They're still really good, but the group content isn't really as massive scale as it is in those games. However, going to bosses with friends and getting involved in clans and stuff is still something that's absolutely able to be done, and it still works really well. So don't feel like if you only want a group game that this isn't for you, because it is absolutely still something that you can do. So along with the endgame bossing and getting through the PvM and learning all the combat, all that sort of good stuff, you'll still have a lot of quests probably left to do, and as you get further into the game, these quests just get better and better. And even myself, as someone who really dislikes doing quests just because I am purely lazy and I just always procrastinate and not do them, I can still admit personally that the endgame quests are a lot better than the early ones, and as you get further into them, they get really interesting. If you're into all the lore and that sort of stuff, then this game is jam-packed full of it, and the end game lore and all that sort of stuff is absolutely brilliant to get into if you wanted to. But the questing just gets better, the rewards just get better, and honestly that quest list is absolutely massive. It will take a long time for you to go through each and every single quest, and Jagex are always releasing new quests as well. Along with all your quests, along with all your PvM and bossing and stuff, there will also be the achievements of such as getting a maxed account, which means getting 99 in all of the skills in the game, or going for a completionist account, which is where you do all the achievements, you get all the levels to max, which is 120, along with a hell of a lot of other stuff in the game, such as doing all the quests, all the achievements, all the diaries, all that sort of good stuff. If you're a completionist player, this game has got some content for you for a hell of a long time. So you might have realized that I didn't actually mention PvP. So, RuneScape 3 really doesn't have that much in the terms of PvP at the moment. It's really not that active. There is still people running around in the wilderness, PKing other people who are doing maybe Slayer tasks, that sort of stuff, and I'm pretty sure there is like maybe a specific world where people will fight in the legacy combat mode, but I don't really think it's a lot of people whatsoever. However, that doesn't mean that the PvP is terrible. There is, you know, it's a lot to learn with it, and the reason that I think it's dead is because of the massive learning curve, and also there's not really much reason to do it. So at the moment in RuneScape 3, PvP is really not active. However, it would be nice to sort of see some sort of PvP resurface at some point in the future, but I'm not sure whether JGEX are looking at doing that or not. We'll have to see what happens. So next quick point that I wanted to talk about is the community. Now, the community it's got kind of like a bit of a reputation, I think. So what I've heard from other people that haven't played this game is apparently the RuneScape 3 community is quite toxic. Now, that's not true actually, and in my opinion it's really not true. Most of the people who play this game are friendly and actually quite happy to help you out. At least from my personal experience over the many years I've played this game, is most of the players in this game are very friendly. They will happily give you advice, give you tips and help you out, take you to places to figure things out. However, every MMO does have that toxic side to it. So yes, there will be those people. There's the different types of people. The people who will scam you for your entire bank and take the money and run, or the people who will lure you into the wilderness and kill you off for your stuff, or the people at the very tippy toppy of the game who love to give out all of their advice and just make sure that you know that you're not as good as them. However, that's not everybody. I'm saying everyone who is at the top of the game is like that, because they're really not. It's just like a select few, but those people are around, so you can kind of avoid them fairly easily. But yeah, otherwise the community is absolutely great. There's loads of people in here that are absolutely awesome. It's really easy to make good friends. It's really easy to get involved in clans and group bossing, all that sort of stuff. There is some toxic stuff. There is some like elitist sort of side to the game, but again, it's quite easy to avoid, and it's really not everybody. So moving on to a few issues that this game does have, we're going to talk about monetization first, and then we're going to talk about the microtransactions that come with that, and then we'll talk about things like player support and a few other things as well. But let's start off with monetization. This game is fairly heavily monetized. For a membership subscription, it is $11 US a month, and that isn't as much as most MMOs, but it's quite high considering the other forms of monetization this game does have. We have Treasure Hunter, which allows you to buy keys from JGEX and then open those keys for things like rewards, like bonus experience and all that sort of stuff, items in game and whatnot. However, this is partially considered pay to win, and yes, it could be considered pay to win, but I have a video talking about that. I will link it above now if you want to go and watch that, because I really don't think it matters, and I don't think this game is pay to win once you really get down to it. Next up, the player support is it's not really existent. Most of the time that if you have an issue, you will have to either get some votes on Reddit, contact someone through Twitter, and try and get a response there from one of the mods. But that being said, there's not really much times in the game where you're going to have issues that you need player support. But when there is, they're usually really good at getting on top of it and opening up a form of contact for that specific reason. RuneScape has always had an issue with bots, and RuneScape 3 at the moment hasn't been that bad recently. However, it's started picking up again. Bots are coming back to this game now that it's getting more and more popular, and the reason there's bots is people, one, don't want to spend the time leveling their account. Even though RuneScape 3 really doesn't take that long anymore, people still do it, but the main reason is gold farming. People will run bots and tons of them to farm up loads of gold and then sell that gold on the black market for real world trading. However, JGEX are constantly fighting this. They release bonds so that people could buy money from themselves rather than black markets, and they also constantly have a really good detection system for bots, and bots really don't last that long at all. I would say bots probably only last about a few days at the most. However, that being said, there's also people like gold farmers who are playing the accounts themselves, and it really does go deeper than that, but there'll be other videos that you can talk about with that on YouTube as well. The combat can feel really confusing and stressful for new players, but once you've got used to it, it really does become one of the best combat systems I've played in an MMO, not going to lie. And finally, one of my biggest issues at the moment is the server stability. At the moment, with all the new players joining and all the people playing all at once, the servers really are struggling at the moment. They need some updates, they need fixing. When you have a world with like 300 plus people on it, there starts to be server side delay, and this can be an issue for endgame, but for you guys starting out, it won't be an issue, and hopefully something is done about this in the near future. Otherwise, personally, I don't see much more issues with the game than those. There are some fairly big issues, and I'm not just sweeping them under the rug. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will answer any of them I can. I know some of them sound like real deal breakers, but they actually end up not being that bad of a problem, especially the pay to win aspect of it. Definitely watch that other video or ask me in the comments, and I will answer any questions again that you do have. So now that all that's covered, that brings me to my overall opinion of RuneScape 3 at the moment in 2021. So, in my opinion, RuneScape 3 is absolutely one of the best PvM or PvE experiences available for an MMORPG. The combat is really well done. It's really hard to get your head around at first, but once you're into it, the bossing and the content that you can get into for PvM and PvE is absolutely brilliant. The mechanics in this game that the combat allows are literally endless. Jagex can add so many things. Recently they added more mechanics that are completely new to the game, and things aren't getting repetitive whatsoever. Not only can you do group stuff, there is loads and loads of solo stuff in the game to do as well. So if you're the sort of person who doesn't like waiting around to join groups and get into big dungeon finders, that sort of thing, then this is definitely the sort of game that you could jump into, do bosses whenever you wanted, however you wanted, and not have to worry about doing groups. At the same time, there's lots of endgame group bosses as well that you can do, and these will take a lot of coordination and organization with other players as well to make sure you get through these fights nice and easy, which, if that's your cup of tea, then there's absolutely that for you as well. The game will have so much content for new players to do, as it is a really old game and there is so much stuff been added since obviously release. There is so much stuff you will want to do, there are so many achievements that you will want to unlock, and so many quests that will take you a lot of hours to complete. I would say that you will probably never be out of things to do in this game, and you'll never be thinking, of course once you get to the completionist stage this may change slightly, however there will always be things that you can set for yourself in terms of improving at bosses, making your kill times faster, and of course upgrading all your gear to the absolute best in slot. And then of course new content comes out very often. Jagex, the company who developed this game, are really good at releasing content for the game. There is new bosses out fairly often, there is new quests out fairly often, and there's even big new zones every now and again. Along with that, they quite often release new skills once they've figured out which one can fit into the game next, and this game is just constantly being updated. It's absolutely awesome to see. The playstyle of the game is one where you can set whatever you want to do yourself, so you never really feel like you have to do what everybody else is doing. You can literally sit down, make your own goals, and go off and do it yourself. So if you're someone who doesn't like to follow the absolute set out way of things in doing things, then you can definitely just make your own path and enjoy the game your own way. The community is absolutely awesome in terms of helping out new players and getting involved with other people. There is obviously, like I said earlier, the toxic side of the game, but again, it's quite easy to avoid, so don't worry about that too much. Quick mention, if you do decide to try the game out and you want to get joined into a community, there's a link to my Discord channel in the description. Join that. Everyone in there is absolutely awesome, and I'm sure that plenty of people in there will be happy to help you out and play along with you along the way as well. The issues that I mentioned in terms of monetization, the microtransactions with Treasure Hunter and bonds, along with things like the pay-to-win aspect, which isn't that big of a deal per person, I feel these are greatly outweighed by the pros of the game, and personally I do think that at the moment this game is absolutely worth your time checking out and investing some time into it. Even if you just give it a week, give it 2 weeks to try it out, see how it goes, and see if the addiction does take hold while you are starting to play. So overall, I personally do believe that RuneScape 3 is worth playing in 2021, so I highly suggest you do check it out. And of course, if you do have any questions, then do just leave a comment down below. I will answer as many as I can, if not all of them, and I will do my best to make sure that you understand anything you need to be able to get into this game. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that if you were sat on the fence about trying this game, or if you've just found this video and you've been like, oh yeah, I'll see what that is all about, and you've decided, I hope that you've decided that you are going to try this game out and see if you enjoy it. But again, any questions, do ask. If you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video, do subscribe, and if you liked the video, then leave a like on it as well. It'll get suggested to other people that way. If you have any questions, guys, honestly, I can't stress this enough, do just leave a comment down below. I'm happy to answer all of them. It's not a pain, it's not annoying. Ask any question, there is no stupid questions. But again, thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to my current channel members. We currently have Chax, Andy V, Sam, and Maka. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. If anyone else is interested in this, there's a join button, by the sub button. Give that a click and you can see what perks you do get while you do support the channel as well.